There was once a wealthy man who lived in a beautiful home surrounded by vast fields and vineyards. He was a kind and loving father who worked hard all his life to provide for his family. He had two sons, the older son, diligent and responsible, who remained close to home, and the younger son, full of restless energy and longing for adventure beyond the familiar countryside. One day, the younger son came to his father with a bold and troubling request. "Father," he said, "give me my share of the inheritance now." This was a shocking thing to ask. In their culture, an inheritance was not given until after a father's death. But despite his sadness and disappointment, the father agreed. He divided his wealth and gave the younger son his portion. With a heart full of excitement and his bags heavy with riches, the younger son set off for a distant land. For a time, he lived as he had always dreamed, lavishly and recklessly. He spent his money on extravagant parties, fine clothes, and fleeting friendships. He chased every pleasure the world had to offer, believing he had finally found true freedom. But wealth easily spent is quickly lost. It wasn't long before his money was gone, and with it, so were his so-called friends. A severe famine struck the land. Food became scarce, and people grew desperate. Alone and hungry, the young man searched for work and finally found employment with a farmer who sent him into the fields to feed the pigs. Day after day, he trudged through the mud and filth, tossing scraps into the troughs. His fine clothes were now rags. His once proud face was gaunt with hunger. At times, he stared at the food he gave the pigs and wished he could eat it himself. He felt completely alone, empty, and broken. Then, one day, as he sat in the dirt, he came to his senses. How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death, he thought. I will go back to my father and say to him, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father interrupted. "Quick," he called to his servants. "Bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Prepare the fattened calf. We will feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." The household burst into joyful celebration. Music and laughter echoed across the fields. The younger son, once lost, was now home, restored not as a servant, but as a beloved son. Meanwhile, the older son was working in the fields. As he approached the house and heard the music and dancing, he asked a servant what was happening. "Your brother has come home," the servant replied, "and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound." The older son's face darkened. He refused to enter the house and join the celebration. When his father came out and pleaded with him, he finally burst out, "All these years I've worked for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when the son of yours, who squandered your wealth with wild living, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him." The father placed his hand gently on his older son's shoulder. "My son," he said softly, "you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." And so, Jesus told this parable to reveal the heart of God, a father who waits patiently, who runs to meet us when we return, who forgives completely, and who celebrates the repentance of a lost soul. The father in the story represents God himself, who loves each of us unconditionally. Whether we have stayed faithfully by his side or wandered far away, no matter how far we go or how lost we become, he longs to welcome us home with open arms.